You're listening to Full Circle Weekly News of the open source community presented by Full Circle Magazine. These articles are compiled by Eric the Unready, and I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 406, covering week 12, March 17th to 23rd, 2025. The GIMP 3.0 graphics editor has been released. Ready-made builds have been published for Linux as AppImage and Flatpak for x86-64 and ARM64. Builds for Windows and Mac OS are being prepared for publication. It was decided to move to a more predictable and frequent schedule of publishing new stable branches. The developers will not try to push many major changes at once, but will try to focus on polishing individual new features. GIMP 3.2 is planned to be published in about a year. In between major releases, corrective updates with bug fixes will be released. GIMP 3.0 features the transition to the GTK3 library, CSS-like style definition system, and the use of client-side dialog window decoration was made. New widgets were proposed, also providing native support for working in environments based on the Wayland protocol. They added support for high DPI and taking into account system scaling settings when generating the interface. The interface has been significantly modernized, support for symbolic icon sets has been improved, and now automatically adjusts to the set foreground and background colors. Varnish Software has introduced the open-source TinyKVM project that develops tools for isolating the execution of individual processes using the KVM hypervisor. The goal of the project is to create the fastest sandbox isolation system for individual processes using hardware virtualization. The project code is written in C and C++ and is distributed on the GPL v3 license. Also, a commercial license is provided for those who are not comfortable with GTK. TinyKVM is designed to launch isolated any console programs for Linux with performance close to normal execution. The overhead for calling each system call is about 2 microseconds. Additional isolation of processes in caching systems and web request processing is mentioned. TinyKVM is designed to replace the libriscv emulator used to isolate the processing of each web request in the Varnish platform. A version of the libvmod library has been created, allowing the execution of Varnish modules using TinyKVM. Vivaldi 7.2 has been released. It is being developed on the Chromium engine by former developers of the Opera Presto engine. Vivaldi builds are available for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS under a proprietary license, distributing changes made to the Chromium codebase under an open license, and the source code is available. The browser interface is written in JavaScript using the React library, Node.js platform, Browserify, and various ready-made NPM modules. The project aims to create a customizable and functional browser that preserves the privacy of user data. The main functions include a tracking and advertising blocker, note, history, and bookmark managers, private browsing mode, end-to-end encrypted synchronization, tab grouping modes, sidebar configured with a large number of settings, horizontal tab display mode, and a built-in email client, RSS reader, and calendar in test mode. Elementary OS 8.0.1 has been published. It is positioned as a fast, open, and privacy-conscious alternative to Windows and Mac OS. The project focuses on high-quality design aimed at creating an easy-to-use system that consumes minimal resources and provides high startup speed. It uses the Pantheon desktop environment. Bootable ISO images are available for download, available for the AMD architecture. Free downloads are available, but you need to enter $0 in the donation amount field. Original components are generated using GTK3, the Vala language, and the native Granite framework. The Ubuntu project is used as the base of the distribution. Elementary OS 8.x is compatible with Ubuntu 24.04 at the packages and repository support level. All default and additional applications offered for installation through App Center are packaged using the Flatpak format. The Pantheon shell combines such components as the Gala window manager, the Slingshot launcher, the switchboard control panel, the Wingtop panel, the dock taskbar, and the Pantheon greeter session manager. The author of the Little Direct Media Layer, or LDL, graphics library and the Arcanum World game engine is developing the SDL3 Lite project aimed at recreating the SDL3 library with support for older architectures and operating systems while maintaining compatibility with SDL3 at the C API level. SDL3 Lite already supports Linux with limited functionality starting with Debian 3 and also Windows 95. The system requirements for the graphics API include support for OpenGL 1.0 and OpenGL 1.2 for 2D rendering. The author plans to add support for Windows 3.1 and MS-DOS. The code is written in C++ and is distributed under the Boost software license. The GNOME 48 desktop environment has been released. Specialized live builds based on OpenSUSE and an installation image prepared by the GNOME OS initiative are available for a quick evaluation of GNOME 48's capabilities. GNOME 48 is also already included in experimental builds of Ubuntu 25.04 and Fedora 42. Matthew Kosarek has released the Miracle-WM 0.5 Compositing Manager, which uses the Wayland protocol and Mir Compositing Manager components. Miracle-WM supports tiling window layout similar to the i3 and Sway projects. Waybar can be used as a panel. The project code is written in C++ and is distributed under the GPL v3 license. Ready-made builds are available in the Snap format, plus RPM and Deb packages. The goal of Miracle-WM is to create a composite server that uses tiled window management, but is more functional and stylish than projects like SwayFX. At the same time, the project allows you to use classic techniques for working with floating windows, such as placing individual windows on top of a tiled grid or pinning windows to a specific place on the desktop. Virtual desktops are supported with the ability to set a default window mode for each desktop. It is expected that Miracle-WM will be useful for users who prefer a tiled layout but want visual effects and a more vivid graphical design with smooth transitions and colors. The configuration is defined in YAML format. Lossless Cut 3.65.0 has been released. It provides a graphical interface for editing multimedia files without recoding the content. Cropping and trimming video and audio is the most popular function of Lossless Cut, reducing the size of large files shot on an action camera or quadcopter camera. Lossless Cut allows you to select relevant fragments of the recording in the file and discard the excess without performing a full recoding and preserving the original quality of the material. Since the processing is performed by copying the existing data, the operations are very fast. Lossless Cut is written in JavaScript using the Electron platform and is an add-on to the FFmpeg package. The code is distributed on the GPL v2 license. Builds are prepared for Linux as Snap and Flatpak, Mac OS, and Windows. T-coding, the program, can also solve tasks such as attaching an audio track or subtitles to a video, cutting out individual scenes from videos, saving fragments linked to tags/chapters separately, regrouping video parts, dividing audio and video into different files, changing the type of multimedia container, saving individual video frames as images, creating thumbnails, exporting a fragment to a separate file, and changing metadata, all without recoding. There are tools for detecting and automatically cutting out empty areas, as well as linking to scene changes. You can combine fragments from different files, but the files must be encoded using the same codec and parameters. It is possible to edit individual parts with selective recoding of only the changed data, but leaving the rest of the information in the original video that was not affected by editing. During editing, undo, redo, and display of the FFmpeg command log are supported. Ilya Shugan, X512, reported on the first results of porting the NVIDIA driver for the Haiku operating system. The port is still in its early stages of development, but is already suitable for simple rendering. The work involves an open kernel module from NVIDIA and the Vulkan driver NVK from Mesa. The Mesa driver NVK has been supplemented with support for the kernel-level NVIDIA driver instead of the Nouveau DRM driver. LibDRM and related components are not used in the port. The decision to use NVIDIA's code rather than the Nouveau driver was made because the NVIDIA driver is designed to be portable and uses common code across Windows, Linux, FreeBSD, and Solaris builds. The NVIDIA driver is also of higher quality and better supported. Engineers from Google have published a set of patches for discussion by Linux kernel developers with the implementation of the Live Update Orchestrator, or LUO, subsystem designed to update the kernel in live mode. Unlike mechanisms such as LivePatch, KSlice, KPatch, and KGraph, the new system is not limited to the ability to apply individual fixes to the running Linux kernel, but allows you to fully reboot and update the kernel without stopping the operation of individual devices. The project is based on a set of KEXEC handover patches to the KEXEC mechanism used to load a new kernel from an already running Linux kernel without a physical reboot. The main application area of LUO is cloud environments, where it will be possible to update the KVM hypervisor without disrupting the operation of running virtual machines. In particular, it will be possible to suspend virtual machines while rebooting the kernel with the hypervisor while keeping all devices attached to the virtual machines in working order. The developers of the Raspberry Pi project have presented the RPI-Image-Gen toolkit, designed to simplify the generation of custom system images for Raspberry Pi boards. The advantages of the toolkit include fast assembly due to the use of ready-made binary packages, the use of identical versions of libraries and applications with the Raspberry Pi OS, the ability to configure an arbitrary partition layout and use file system encryption, support for generating a list of used packages, and checking for the absence of vulnerable versions of programs. The code is written in Shell and is distributed under the BSD license. ReactOS 0.4.15 operating system is presented, aimed at ensuring compatibility with Microsoft Windows programs and drivers, and also offering a Windows-style design. An installation ISO image and live build are available for download. The project code is distributed under the GPL v2 and LGPL v2 licenses. This release is a culmination of the work of numerous contributors since 0.4.14 was branched in 2020. This has been the largest release to date. There are nearly 8 times more commits going into this release than in 0.4.14. NixOS proposed a repeatable build mode proposed for inclusion in the Nix packages package repository, which allows identifying cases of backdoors being introduced into the code, reminiscent of the incident with the XZ project. The presented protection method allows detecting modifications in the archives with the source code of the release, which are absent from the repositories with the code. The essence of the method is that the source code of the new version of the application is assembled twice, the first time from the code downloaded from the Git repository and the second time from the code distributed in ready-made archives. If the resulting binary files differ from each other, there is reason to suspect the presence of hidden modifications in the repository or in the archive file with the code. The LandRun project has begun developing a new system for isolated execution of individual applications. The isolation uses the Linux Landlock kernel LSM module, which allows you to do without executing privileged operations during the creation of a sandbox environment. LandRun is close to the FireJail utility, but differs in a simpler implementation, lightweight, and the ability to work under a regular unprivileged user without delivery with the SUID flag. The project code is written in Go and is distributed on the GPL v2 license. The landlock mechanism allows unprivileged programs to restrict the use of Linux kernel objects, such as file hierarchies, network sockets, and IOCTL. Unlike namespaces and system call filtering, the isolated environment is formed by the Linux kernel as an additional layer on top of the existing system access control mechanisms. The LandRun utility uses the Go-Landlock library from the Landlock developers. The release of the Phoenix 250 live distribution is presented, dedicated to the 25th anniversary of the project. The distribution is based on Debian without a desktop environment, and everything is done in the console. It provides a selection of utilities for the needs of the system administrator and includes more than 600 packages with all sorts of utilities. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll see you next week.